Today we're going to talk about Chapter 3 on Ascension, and I'm going to share some overall thoughts about Ascension as a whole, as well as giving out some ideas for Ascension to consider while going forward. First of all, I will state that after almost a year of wildcard mode, I'm not a big fan of it. Initially, it took a horrendous grind to get somewhat viable build to even start playing the game. With it came a long road from that point in time, and Chapter 3 improves everything even further, but all in all that randomness is not really that fun. There are no boundaries whatsoever to your build, so it's just kind of a delay to get to the good stuff. The biggest drawback is that you are not welcome to experiment. I mean, you are, but you will need another 4K scrolls to roll the perfect build. If you miss only a couple of talents, you can still roll them and test along the way, but every single experiment has a very high price. Thankfully, Chapter 3 introduced the rapid roll feature, so at least rolling is not that cancerous anymore. Rolling new stuff and waiting for that dice to pop up with your dream spell or talent is quite exciting, but only for the very first month. Then you will start to hate it. The worst thing is that the scroll farming nowadays, well, it was like that from the beginning to be honest, comes down to farming those mana storms like crazy, endlessly I mean. Even though I think this Ascension feature in particular is pretty cool and well made, it is used to farming scrolls and leveling, which means that from level 10 up to the late stages of max level, you are literally soul-bound to the mana storms with occasional daily quests. This creates a gameplay loop that gets boring very fast. In my opinion, Blizzard did a great job with the recent expansion limiting gear progression on delves to 4 per day. This means that solo upgrades for both casual and hardcore player base without making everything else obsolete. Thus far, people steal the dungeons and farm rep in the open world as it opens more option for progression. On Ascension, you spend all your time leveling in mana storms. Then at max level, you still do mana storms as they give nice initial gear and shower you with scrolls. At that point, you are locked in them for quite some time until you get enough scrolls to roll a half decent build to be able to start doing some group content. When you finally get your dream build, mana storms become irrelevant as from here on only people with specific builds tailored for pushing higher levels can get any rewards. Of course, there are alternatives and you can still do what you want and how you want, but let's face it, prestige and some extra scrolls from the open world are nowhere near close the pace of mana storm scroll farms. Ultimately, the class list is not that fun as it may seem in the beginning. I'm not gonna even dive deep into the balance issues as at this point I'm 100% sure that fair balance is just plain impossible to make with so many synergies and combinations, but what irks me the most is that the type of playstyle it creates. You are kind of forced to smash as many damage modifiers and additions into 1 or 2 spells or magic schools so they deal millions of damage. Everything else are just additions that further buff your main abilities or give you some more damage bonuses. You will of course find some cases that do not fit into this description, but those are usually performing worse. Also, you need to pick correctly, because if you choose an ability that is weak overall, no damage modifiers will save you from flopping. For example, I've been trying to make 2 of my favorite picks to work for quite some time. That would be Elemental Assassin and Elemental Shredder. I have an uphill battle from the beginning as both core abilities of those specs are quite weak overall and haven't seen any buffs for a whole freaking year. Whole freaking season, I mean. Mortal Strike and Backstab are just sus, no question about it. On top of that, elemental damage means 3 schools of magic, which means that you don't have that much space to allocate all the good stuff. So, you are left with generic 3% damage increases to buff it up. At least with Chapter 3 Mortal Strike, Spell Shredder is at least somewhat playable and enjoyable, but a nice buff for a Mortal Strike would probably take it to the next level finally. Also, in this whole freedom, you're kinda locked anyways, as all the good stuff we get are just shattered legendary archetype engines that have been used before, so the freedom comes down to connecting those as much as possible for the explosive mixture of power. At least, with previous archetypes, you were incentivized to use more abilities that belonged to the legendary archetype kit, working well as a whole. Your job was to put the correct talents to support those playstyles, which still left some freedom to back it up. Especially the Ascension is really great at coming up with those archetypes and classes overall. Conquest of Azeroth, for example, has some great ideas and class designs. The presets we have on Area 52 are also very well made. I do understand that with all the classes and archetypes, the balance is still hard to achieve, but it's definitely closer to playable state than trying to make everything work on free pick with thousands of possibilities. Yesterday, Dutch released a Wheel of Viability and Ascension endgame content on Area 52. It literally shows how many specs are viable to reach some endgame goals. I think that from here, Ascension can either go two ways. Scrap wildcard idea and just connect it with Area 52 and focus on that as classless, especially with the Wrath of Lich King release very soon. Most of the times the TBC expansion didn't manage to get to the end on seasonal, and most of the new players choose Area 52 anyways, so it can be the best time to actually finish the seasonal, especially with other projects on the side like Koa and Original Vanilla. Other route I see is completely redesigning the classless into something that will resemble kind of a Path of Exile tree, something that would truly be classless. I am sure that with people Ascension have on the team right now, things like that are 100% possible. It would just need to have a good implementation and scrap the RE ideas to create new ones that would fit certain trees. Something completely brand new that would shake the landscape, because otherwise I don't really see the point of keeping the wildcard as it is. In most people's opinion, this is the worst season by far. From the PvE design standpoint, I think Ascension is heading into the right direction. Some new fights I have seen in the Mana Storms are really fun and require you to learn the mechanics to be able to get further. It does consist of more modern WoW approach, where you have to avoid stuff coming your way and not only interrupt important casts or dispel certain stuff mechanics. If the boss reworks are going to see with upcoming Wrath are completely like that, then it can be hell of a lot of fun. New dungeons are always welcome, and it seems that they are good at it, especially after seeing custom levels in the Mana Storms. I think that Ascension would made a big step ahead by making old raids relevant. With all the scaling out in the world and dungeons, I know it's possible. Just make the current expansion raid tier have the best gear and the rest of the raid, and legacy ones scale to the catch-up gear. I bet many people would take part in such raids, especially that recently Blizzard did similar things with Dragonflight raids, and it was a pretty cool concept. Would love something like that. As for PvP, Chapter 3 didn't change much. It's still hard to get into at max level, especially with the wildcard. The entry level is even higher than ever before, as you not only need the gear, but at least 90% of your build ready. Although the cross-spec scrolls from the cases will definitely help, as you can play PvE while collecting stuff for your side PvP build. But then again, you still need gear, so it's pretty long grind anyways. Prestige and BG leveling is a lot more fun and easy to pick up, although this comes from a guy that has all the heirlooms and skill cards ready to go, so the new players are probably frustrated with the power differences as well. After recent Night Doubles video about Area 52, I really want to try it out, especially that a lot of you guys have asked for it for a very long time, and when I look at every subject that I talk about in this video, they can be actually fixed just by changing the server. The only drawback would be lack of new things, as those are being introduced usually only to the seasonal server first, and that the TBC expansion is almost finished already on Area 52, so lots of content is no longer valid there. On the other hand, a lot of new players are coming to Ascension Area 52 right now, so such playthrough would be a nice direction pointer with the Zero to Hero series. If you're a new player watching this, or just a regular guy that loves such series, and would like to actually see as I progress from level 1 up to the end game with some archetypes, let me know in the comment section and vote in the recent poll on the channel.